In a world driven by corporate power and global finance, there exists a web of influence that often remains hidden from the public eye. Hedge funds have long been known for their ability to generate massive profits through complex investment strategies. However, what most people are unaware of is their significant influence over some of the world's largest corporations. Hedge funds like BlackRock, known for their substantial assets under management, have stealthily amassed significant stakes in a wide range of companies across various industries. Through their substantial shareholdings, these hedge funds can exercise their voting rights to sway corporate policies, board appointments, and even strategic decisions, often in pursuit of short-term gains. The challenge lies in the fact that these hedge funds no longer prioritize their investors' interests, but rather an ideologically driven agenda bent on government and state control, using their power and financial control to persuade politicians and government institutions to enact widespread social change. The collapse of the Soviet Union had a powerful effect on the West. For many, it symbolized the final failure of the dream that politics could be used to build a new kind of world. What was going to emerge instead was a new system that had nothing to do with politics, a system whose goal wasn't to try and change the actors within it, but rather to manage a post-political world. One of the first people to describe this dramatic change was a German political thinker called Ulrich Beck. Beck said that any politician who believed that they could take control of society and drive it forward to build a better future was now seen as dangerous. In the past, politicians might have been able to do this, but now they were faced with what he called the runaway world, where things were so complex and interconnected, and modern technologies so potentially dangerous that it was impossible to predict the outcomes of anything you did. The catalogue of environmental disasters prove this. Politicians would have to give up any idea of trying to change the world. Instead, their new aim would be to try and predict the dangers in the future, then find ways to avoid those risks. The picture Beck gave was of a political class reduced trying to steer society into a dark and frightening future, constantly peering forward and trying to see the risks coming towards them. The only aim, to avoid those risks and keep society stable. But a system that could anticipate the future and keep society stable was already being built. Pieced together from all kinds of different and sometimes surprising sources, all of them outside politics. One part of it was taking shape in a tiny town in the far northwest of the United States called East Wenatchee. It was a giant computer whose job was to make the future predictable. The man building it was a banker called Larry Fink. Back in 1986, Mr. Fink's career had collapsed. He lost $100 million in a deal and had been sacked. He became determined that it wouldn't happen again. Fink started a company called BlackRock and builds a computer he called Aladdin. It is housed in a series of large sheds in the apple orchards outside Wenatchee. Fink's aim was to use the computer to predict with certainty what the risk of any deal or investment was going to be. The computer constantly monitors the world, and it takes things that it sees happening, and then compares them to events in the past. It can do this because it has in its memory a vast history of the past 50 years. not just financial, but economic, political, social, and environmental events, which the system then analyzes using sophisticated algorithms which find correlations among them. And out of the millions and millions of correlations, the computer then spots possible disasters, possible dangers lying in the future, and moves the investments to avoid any radical change and keep the system stable. Aladdin had proved to be incredibly successful. The assets it guides and controls now amount up to $15 trillion, which is 7% of the world's total wealth. As custodians of an immense pool of assets, they've secured stakes in most of the world's leading corporations. These entities span across various sectors, from the tech titans of Silicon Valley to prominent automakers, influential food and beverage conglomerates, dominant airlines, and even the architects behind public infrastructure projects. Such is the depth of their influence, they have the capacity to transform the very tides of societal evolution, a transformation that, in many ways, they've already set in motion. There is a growing movement towards a worrying trend known as ethical investing, along with shareholder activism, which aims to hold these corporations accountable and push for more progressive and ideological practices.